Hi there guys, welcome to today's video. I'd just like to briefly say that if you do enjoy today's content, if you could please consider leaving a like and comment, as well as hitting that subscribe button and clicking that notification bell. That would be hugely appreciated, as it helps us out a major amount. You can also follow us on Twitter at The Fight Queen, as well as catch us live on Twitch at twitch.tv/The Fight Queen. We are live 7 PM to 9 PM GMT, and again 11 PM to 2 AM GMT on Mondays, Wednesdays and Thursdays. So with that being said and out of the way, let's get right into the video. So first things first, spoiler alert before we get into it, obviously guys, but Arya Stark kills the Night King. What the hell? I need to get right into that point before we get into the major point. I just don't understand all the prophecies or everything that it's been building up to. If that's all just bullcrap, then what is the point in any of it? What's the point in all this groundwork just to throw us off at the last second? No, I get it. That's part of the course for Game of Thrones. But I felt it was such an anticlimactic end for a character that we have built up from season 1, episode 1, second one. I mean, the very, very, very first scene of Game of Thrones as a whole is 2, if not 3 guys running beyond the wall, running through the woods to get away from some walkers. The very, very, very first threat that the show gives us is the White Walkers, and it builds it up from there, and it keeps going back to them and back to them, and makes them out to be the absolute worst, most egregious, most unstoppable, most badass villains you could ever imagine. And a tiny little 20-something-year-old faceless man who's only been a said faceless man for like a year or 2 maximum is somehow able to sneak past hundreds and hundreds of White Walkers, 6 or 7 Lieutenant White Walkers, shall we call them, straight up to the Night King, and then do a good old Snooki switcheroo with the blade while he's got her held up by her throat, and just stab him straight in the gut, just like in Star Wars. And for me, it was so anticlimactic. You've built this villain up to be so badass, so unstoppable, and he ends just like that. Just like at the click of a finger, he is gone. I just don't understand it. I really don't. But I have a lot more problems with this episode, so I'm gonna touch on things lightly. I'm not gonna go too in depth because I don't want to make this, this could be a half an hour video, really. If I wanted it to be, because I could really do an in-depth analysis into everything I found wrong with this episode. And hey, if you guys do want me to do that, please comment below, let me know, as well as give me your thoughts on this episode and your thoughts on my thoughts, and just let me know whether you agree with me, whether you see things different, whether you're really happy with the episode, whether you're really not happy with the episode. Just, yeah, whatever it is, comment below, let me know. But anyway, back to the point. We'll move on to the next one. My next major issue, Bran. I gotta ask you guys, what is the point in him? What is the point of that character? They have again built him up from season after season after season to be this major, important, pivotal character who will play such a huge role because it's him versus the Night King. Sure, Azor Ahai is going to get his Lightbringer and deliver the final blow, but the real battle is going to be between the Three-Eyed Raven and the Night King, and they're going to go to war in some form of ethereal plane, or maybe, they're going to do a battle of minds or a battle of wits, or maybe Bran's going to warg into something and fight him that way, or just a million ways they could have done it. Instead, they had Bran be the most useless, most wasted, most pointless addition to this episode that you could ever have possibly thought of. They built up Bran so much in the last episode, making it out, Bran's the most important thing, we have to keep him alive, he's got to be next to the tree because we have to draw the Night King into it, and then we can trap the Night King, none of which happened. and yeah, they did get, the Night King was at the White Tree, don't get me wrong, But the way that they wanted to trap him did not happen at all. I get that they did still accomplish their plan, but it wasn't in the way they were trying. But back to my point, Bran was just so useless in this episode. The only thing he did was briefly walk into some ravens and give us a CGI blur fest of bad lighting as we fly through clouds. We can barely make out what's in front of us, and then finally, boom, we get to the Night King and he's flying through the sky towards the battle on his big dragon. And that was it. And then Bran's not seen again until the end of the episode, where he tells one of my favourite characters to basically go off himself because your duty's done, friend. See you later now. And then they proceed to kill Theon Greyjoy in what I will admit was a very good scene, and it really did tear at the heartstrings for me, because I liked Theon Greyjoy. I liked the redemption arc he had gone through. Yes, don't get me wrong, I had a little bit of satisfaction in watching him die after all the bad stuff he had done throughout the show, but there was a part of me that loved him again, you know? And yeah, it was sad to see him go, but I felt it was a waste because I don't see the reason why he had to go. Surely he could have just stepped back. I just don't know. I don't know. I don't see why he ran towards the Night King that way, and I don't see why they killed him that way. But that's not my major point here. My major point is Bran. Bran is the big waste here. He could have done so much. They could have accomplished so much with that character, but instead he just became a wasted excuse for CGI. And I do have to briefly touch on, before I get onto the character issues and my biggest issue for the episode as a whole, and kind of the show as a whole, especially in the last 2 seasons, or if not 3, like season 6 onwards, basically. But I have to briefly touch on the lighting of this show, because my God, what is with you guys and always making it so we cannot see what the hell is going on in these battles? I get that you do it because if you didn't, the CGI probably wouldn't hold up that well, because you're only a TV show. You're not a big Hollywood movie with 200 million to pour into each 30-second clip. You've got probably a budget of 2 or 3 million per episode or something like that. Maybe it's been upped a bit more than that now. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know it's not an egregious amount of money. So they have to make certain sacrifices in order to not have you tear things apart with your eyes in a couple of seconds and be like, ooh, that looks bad, sort of thing. But I still feel that they could improve the lighting in this show, especially in battles. And it's so egregious in this episode. So many times you cannot see what the hell's going on, and you really have to work to try to remember the placement of each character in the battlefield, so that when a scene comes along and you see nothing more than a silhouette against a backdrop fighting and swinging their blade against things, you have to try to remember, okay, so that person was in that part of the battlefield, which looks like this is where this scene is right now, and therefore that must be that person. But no, the silhouette doesn't look that much like that person. It could instead be this person, but I thought this person was over here, and it just creates so much confusion, and your brain really has to sit down and work to try and figure out who you're watching swing their blade, who you're watching get stabbed or not get stabbed, die or not die. And yeah, it's not the best. Not to mention the fact that I will also briefly touch on the fact that no major characters have really died for God knows how long. The amount of plot armor that is given to these characters is ridiculous now. It's egregious. The only pivotal character to have been killed off any time recently is Theon Greyjoy, as aforementioned. Yeah, I feel Really disappointed in this episode in a lot of different ways. But let's get on to the main issue. My issue as a whole, for, as I said, not only this episode, but this show as a whole. Especially from when George R.R. Martin left the writing chair, shall we speak. From the moment he walked away from the show and left it all up to DD&B, is it, I believe? That was it. Everything changed. And the show started relying so much on not only plot armor, which I touched on a little bit earlier, for every major character, but my biggest issue is Deus Ex Machinas. What is the problem with this show and Deus Ex Machinas? It uses them constantly, and I just don't understand why. Especially in this episode, we had no less than 5. I can count off the top of my head 5 Deus Ex Machinas. We had Sam fake out die twice, Brienne fake out die once, at least, if not twice, Jaime Lannister fake out die once, Jon Snow fake out die once, but technically twice, I guess, if you count the Night King and having his men all stand up and swarm him as he was running towards him. That is technically a fake out death, but not really, because let's face it, we all knew Jon wasn't going to die there. And the most egregious, the most horrific, the most abhorrent of Deus Ex Machinas from not only this episode, but kind of the show as a whole, Daenerys Targaryen has a fake out death in this episode. Why? Why make it look like Daenerys is about to die when we know full well she has to be in the final battle against Cersei? It's going to be Jon and her versus Cersei Lannister. We all knew that, because we all knew from the moment the preview for this episode came that the Night King wasn't going to last throughout this episode, and that no matter what, it was most likely going to be disappointing, a huge hugely lackluster payoff, and a anticlimactic end to a character that we have had built up from day one. And that's exactly what happened. And a lot of people predicted it, and it's exactly how it ended. However, I don't think a lot of people predicted to have the show go full Harry Potter style and have Arya Stark seemingly invisicloak her way through hundreds of walkers, 6 or 7 lieutenant walkers, shall we call them, and get straight to the Night King. It's just so... yeah, everything about this episode, you can pick it apart and you can be like, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. And for me, so much of it feels like it's not what George R.R. Martin wanted. It really does feel like it's not the direction he's going to take in the books. And I really cannot wait to see the ending in the books now, because I feel it's going to be so much better. We are going to get a such more tasty payoff, a more delicious payoff. It's going to be... I feel the climax in the books is going to be far better. I may be wrong, but I just feel George R.R. Martin is a much better writer than DD&B, and yeah, this episode as a whole really let me down. I really feel that the problems are only going to get worse because we've only got 3 episodes left. I feel next episode, politics. Episode after that will be the battle with Cersei Lannister, and then the final episode will be the ending. And we'll see where the characters go, and that will be it. And none of that to me sounds like a particularly good payoff for what is supposed to be such a ruthless show, a show that from day one kind of built itself up to have this reputation of no mercy and have no plot armor for any characters, have no Deus Ex Machinas for any characters. If a character looked like they were going to die, they died. If a character looked like they were in real trouble, they were in real trouble. And I just feel that the show has gone very, very down the road of fan service and down the road of predictable TV tropes that anyone could see coming from a mile off. And I really I really am disappointed. I just am. And to make my final point and to close this all off, I just feel that the last 3 episodes are going to get worse, and we're all going to begin to feel hugely let down by the end of this show and by this season as a whole. And I think the large majority of fans are going to walk away really wishing that the show had took a different turn. And not to say that the show necessarily needed to have a bad ending, like in terms of, everybody dying and whatnot. But I feel this is the one story that should never have had a happy-go-lucky, Deus Ex Machina, bad guy dies in 2 seconds kind of ending. And I feel like that's exactly the road it's going to take. It's already done it with the Night King, and now I feel it's going to do it with Cersei Lannister in the exact same way. She's going to die just as quick as she was brought in, basically. And I just don't know. I don't know. I feel very, very disappointed, and I feel that this show has took a turn for the worst. But regardless, I'm sorry for ending this episode, or ending this video, on such a huge downer and a down low, but I don't have hopes for this show. I just don't. But anyway, guys, I hope, apart from this depressing end, you guys did enjoy the video, and if you did, please leave a like and a comment. I'd really, really, really love to hear from you guys, hear your thoughts on this episode, on my thoughts, and on just the show as a whole. And also, I'd love to hear your predictions of where this is going to go, where the characters are going to end up, whether we're going to get a happy ending or a bad ending, whether Cersei's going to end up on the throne, Jon's going to end up on the throne, Daenerys will end up on the throne, or heck, even Arya will end up on the throne, because Lord knows what's going to happen to her character now that she all of a sudden seems to be Azor Ahai. So, anyway, with that all being said, I really do hope you guys enjoyed it. Follow me on Twitter at The Fight Queen to stay up to date with all the latest channel news. Follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/The Fight Queen. I will be live tonight, 7 p.m. GMT until 9 p.m. GMT, and then online again, 11 p.m. GMT till around 2 a.m. GMT, and then I'll be live again Wednesday and Thursday at the same times, and that goes for every week. So yeah, I bid you guys a farewell, and until the next video, ta-ta.